Anthology books. Typically, they don't sell well, but is there a way that they could? Hey there, this is Perch. I grew up, well, not grew up, I guess I was older at that point. But I have fond memories of Marvel Comics Presents and Solo Avengers, and these books that had multiple stories in one title. And they mattered. There was some important things that happened. There was some introductions to new characters. There were plot developments. There was actual, progress made in these books. Back in the old days, there was meaning to these titles. And over time, as comics kind of evolved and morphed and everything else, it's kind of like if you watch wrestling and you have the main show, you have the pay-per-views, the big events, and then you have the weekly shows. You have Raw, you have SmackDown, you have Nitro if you're Thunder, and then you have the house shows. And the house shows are the shows that are not televised, but it's where the wrestlers come to your town and they put on a show and all the rest. And if you watch for any length of time, or if you're an older wrestler fan, this is the way it used to be. It used to be that the televised shows, the Raw, the SmackDown, although back in those days it was WWE main event and WWF main event, I should say, and some of these other kind of shows, and they would all be kind of storyline filler. They would be killing time, making progress, building the events to the pay per view. You wouldn't see really title matches on those. You'd typically see, a known wrestler fighting a, indie jobber kind of guy. And then the payoff would be its pay per view. And of course, it'd be that way because you're seeing the TV show for free on your TV and you're getting the payoff on pay per view after you've paid your $30 or $40 or whatever. And then the house shows were nothing. Those were the wrestlers are fighting each other, but nothing is happening. There's no title change, no big storyline events. That's just kind of a showcase of the wrestlers and them hanging out and doing stuff. And of course, that makes sense because it's got a tiny audience compared to a nationwide audience. This is a city that's watching this show, so it's not going to really do much. And every now and then they'd run a house show at Madison Square Garden or a big venue, and then maybe something might happen. You might get a title change, you might get something going on. But old Jack Tunney would come on, and this Friday on Texas, this Tuesday at Texas. I remember there was a whole house show pay per view debacle. I think it was the Undertaker and Hulk Hogan were doing something, and it's like next Tuesday at Texas. Somebody will tell me. Somebody should tell me in the comments. I just remember him saying this over and over, and I'm like, even as a younger kid, I'm like, what's going on? Anyway, where was I going with all this? I have lost the plot. Oh, anthology series, of course. So, by the way, on wrestling, sorry, I can't get away from it just yet. What flipped is that the TV advertising dollars and the importance of Raw and SmackDown started to get more important than the pay per view. So you saw this subtle shift where the pay per view became less important, and having the big events and popping the ratings on TV became more important. And so those two flipped. The house shows always were kind of nonsensical. But the same analogy can be used for comics. So an anthology series, once upon a time, the anthology series was a showcase. It sold well. You could actually put legit costly artists on it and do bigger things. And then the team books, with the rise of the team books, for a while it was just the solo books were doing well, but the team books got more and more popular with Teen Titans and X Men and other things in the 70s and 80s. And then that's where the storyline development happened. And then that kind of jumped back and forth between the solo books and the team books. So where would be the real character development, big moments that are going to change and impact things? Where are the really key things happening? And Lost in the Shuffle became the anthology book. The anthology book became, first of all, the story shortened, and then it became very much almost a gag. Like, let's explore how, where Wolverine came up with the phrase, the best, I'm the best I do, the best of what I do and what I do is very nice. Let's just have, a little 4-page story where maybe he's, fighting through a kitchen and he's getting this is a real story, by the way. You're getting food and soup on him as he's fighting the hand, and so he's all messy. And then he comes out the other end, and there's like some waitress is like, and he's like, I'm the best at what I do. What I do isn't very nice. You see this messy kitchen, and you're like, oh, okay. And it's like, well, I'm not. I mean, it's a fun enough story, I guess, but it really didn't matter. I mean, if you never read that story, it wouldn't mean anything to you. And anthology series have kind of sat there for a while. They've attempted to revive. We have Marvel Comics Presents, and they're attempting to do something. It's like, hey, it's Wolverine's daughter. We've got a daughter character that's his daughter, and she's there, and it's you want to believe this matters, but it probably doesn't. It just that's how the anthology series feel now. And the same thing's true over in DC when they've done various kind of anthology books. It really doesn't matter. Now the DC or the Walmart giants are, well, they're not really an exception. I was going to say they're an exception. Not really. They're still, they're telling short stories. Short stories are good. They're using higher talent, and that's good. They're using some top names, but it's like, you have to be critical to yourself and say, is the events of this story, will the events of this story be referenced, 10 years from now in a comic, or even 2 years from now in a comic? And that's a good indicator. That was always a good indicator in the past, where you'd have like the Avengers book and you have Captain America. And I remember there was a we'll put it this way. In Uncanny Avengers, that Remender was writing, and Remender was also writing Captain America, and he ran a storyline where Captain America got sent to Dimension Z. He basically lived a 20-year, I don't know, some long lifespan. I don't know, 20 years, that may be too much. 7 years, 8 years, enough for the boy, the Ian, the boy he found over there to grow up, to go from baby to kind of teen. It was always kind of a little unclear, and he he got back to Earth, but only like a few hours had passed. But he'd lived this like 8-year lifetime, and it messed him up. It was like it warped his mind a little bit that he was gone for so long and everything else. And so that was a big important deal in the solo Captain America book. It was a big storyline development. It changed the way he was thinking and fighting at the time. And then in Uncanny Avengers, he's having a battle, kind of a leadership battle, kind of an unusual for Cap battle with Havoc, who had been placed, he had placed actually as the leader. And why is Cap acting this way? Why is he on edge? And it was springing from that storyline in the solo book. And then finally he mentions it to, I think, the Wasp, of, I am, part of why I'm off and part of why I'm edgy, and what's going on here is I had this other life and it's causing me to, be different from myself. And that was a wonderful connection between two books. Now, it was written by the same guy, so that makes it easy. But it was the connection between the two was a big deal. It told readers, hey, what's happening in one matters in the other, and that's important. When you have a shared universe, when you have one big story, you need to have those moments. But that's the exception, not the rule, that these things happen. And so anthology books, there's a place for them, certainly. And I think here comes a few ideas. I think, first off, as the comics struggle with digital and some of these other distribution platforms, I think, one of the things they should do is utilize the anthology format and series to push into these other platforms. Rather than making a complete 20-page comic, do a 5-page comic, release it for free as a web comic, put it on Amazon as get 30 of these stories done, commissioned, which would not be hard. They're all 4 to 5 pages each. Get 30 of them done, and then put them out every day. So you have like the month of Marvel. So Marvel May, and you just for 31 days you have a new story going out that is short and everything else, but just like defines the Marvel universe. Don't worry about getting them all connected or anything else. Just have that there and use that as a way to kind of keep present in the minds of readers. Make them free, or make them really cheap. Make it a 50-cent story. I don't know, 25-cent story. Just do something that basically, has them all. And then you can collect them all as a trade paperback down the road and ship that off to double your money. But just do this, but the other key is drop some money on it. put some real talent on it. And when I say real talent, I do not mean, hey, Al Ewing is going to write 20 of these. I'm saying you're paying Claremont not to work. I mean, there'd be kind of a perfect thing. Say, hey, Chris Claremont, next year, next May, I like Marvel May, two M's. Next May, we want to produce a little 4-page comic every day, a little short little story of all the different characters in our universe, all these different little elements. So, don't try and, we're not going to change the world. We're not going to, do big continuity things, but we're going to give the spirit and the flavor of these heroes. And we're going to have a 4-page story, and they can't be throwaway nonsense stories. They do need to have some thought behind them. That's why you bring in somebody like Claremont and start writing now. And then we're going to line up a bunch of good artists, artists that, maybe from, artists that are not working currently regularly, but get, Ron Lim and Barry Windsor Smith and Bob Layton and, well, not Bob Layton, but get some good people to, Bob Layton's good, but get Walter Simonson to do, just get a couple short things produced, and then have it be a big celebration of the fans. And next May, be like, hey, log in to Comixology or whatever digital platform you're going to push, or your own, launch your own, put it on the Disney Plus streaming service as a app companion. Who knows? And just say, log in every day, and just like, Farmville, you get a free gift. Does Farmville do that? I don't know. And that free gift is a short little comic written by, a legit creator, not some nobody, and it's going to reintroduce you to all the heroes of the Marvel universe, and just have a story a day. That'd be a great anthology kind of line. But I think the key with anthologies in general is just, you have to go one of two ways. Either you're going to do a lot more work editorially to make sure that they connect and matter and, have meaning to the solo books and the team books, and that they're not just this throwaway stuff, which I think is good. And let editorial do their job. That's a good idea in any event. Yes, do that. Or and would be best, get some legit creators to come in and do this work. This isn't the, let's get Kelly Thompson to do something with this artist that she found on Tumblr. Don't, and it's not a knock necessarily against the current talent, but you have a lot of mega talent that are either in the background or, have wandered away, no longer working here for your company, doing something for Valiant. You don't want to pay them for, a 12-year run, 12 issue run even, but they're still out there and they still can produce work, and they're very well known and loved by the fans. I mean, the funny thing is, we hear different initiatives from DC and Marvel at times of, hey, we're going to do something for the fans. It's like, okay, great. Fans like things. Let's give the fans something. So what are we going to give to the fans? And it's like, well, we're going to create this 100-page, Marvel Comics 1000 with, some of the best talent in the business. Like, oh, awesome. Okay, let's, we're going to get, like I said, Byrne, Simonson, Claremont, the creators that we grew up with, because we're fans. Remember, we are fans of the comics, and part of why we became fans is, reading the, depending on your era, the Claremonts, the Millers, the other Miller, we grew up with the, I mean, hell, what's sad here in both anthology books and anything else is that a lot of us, we lived through Ultimatum, and Ultimates 3, the Jeff Loeb nightmare of that title. But if Jeff Loeb could come back and write some comics again, I'd take it. I think a lot of fans would be all over that. And it tells you, I mean, God, we lived through Ultimatum and we're like, you know what? Let's bring him back. We could use him. Is Chuck Austin busy? Where's he at? Let's find him and bring him back. How did we get here? Anyway, that's the point. I think with anthology books, they've either got to matter, or they've got to live up to their kind of their namesake. They have to be a showcase for top talent. You can't just do an anthology book with throwaway titles. I have a feeling in a lot of cases the anthology title feels like kind of the Marvel tryout book or the DC tryout book where they've got kind of unknown, no name talents and they're throwing them in and seeing what it's like to work with them in a safe, controlled environment. And I get the business sense behind that. All makes sense, except to the fans, that's not, they don't necessarily care. They'd like the talent scouts to just do their job and find good talents and bring them to the table. They don't necessarily want to be along for the journey. They just want to get the output. And I think both comic companies could learn a lot from that and do a better job there. Anyway, what do you think? Are you a fan of anthology books? What would make them better? What would cause you to buy them, and do they have a place anymore? Maybe they just need to retire once and for all and be done. Like, subscribe, hit notify, follow me on Twitter, Comic Perch. Thank you for listening.